All right, welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, my name's Mark. I'm the founder of Legacy Trades, which is basically an automation focused community only focusing on automation trading. And just want to do a weekly recap real quick. So I do use the Ninja Trader on my personal live cash account. I'm up a little bit over $45,000 on my fund account. I'm still maintaining my 5 fund account, so this is a brand new fund account because I did actually blow one of my other accounts by accident. I was testing something else, but so far this brand new fund account is almost $500. This is 2.5K. This one is almost $4,000. And be mindful, I did actually took a couple of payouts this week, and then this is up 2.6K, and then this one is actually up 2.4K. And I did pass one of my other trading combines, and I have one more about to pass as well. I'm like $600 away, and this would be my fourth backup. And then I'm probably gonna do one more trading combine just to make it 5 backups. Just in case if any of these accounts does get blown, I do have 5 other evals I can actually activate after that to maintain my 5 fund accounts. And if you look at my trading calendar, so far I've been on a winning streak all this week. I don't trade on Fridays, but if I did, this would have been a winning day. And if you go back to the month of April, I had all winning days. This is my only losing day, but I was actually testing something different that showed also promising results, but it actually backfired on me. So I went back to Swift Algo X, my excuse me, my only indicator that I'm actually using at the moment. But that's my weekly recap. And in this video, I'm basically gonna talk about really on Swift Algo X and my new update with the ConFlux settings, as well as giving an update with my newest strategy indicator called the Legacy Sniper Bot. So if you do find value in this video, please drop a like, leave a comment, and also subscribe. I do push out weekly uploads every week. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. All right, so basically first things first. So you want to go to your indicators. It's going to be under your invite only scripts, but you want to add the Swift Algo X indicator. The link for this will be in my description. This is actually the primary or main focus indicator. And I'm actually trading on MNQ, which is a futures ticker. So if you go to the settings of Swift Algo X, as you know, before my original settings was actually on the 1 minute time frame, which was actually my original settings. And then the indicator sensitivity, I kept this as 5 minutes. Just note your indicator sensitivity should actually be higher than the time frame you are trading on typically. Then this risk to reward ratio, I mostly keep this as a 1:1. And then max stop loss size percentage filter, I keep this enabled, and I use a 0.3 for this. Okay, and I keep this EMA by default 300 and calculated bars as 5,000. So this is the backtest dashboard. So it's basically telling me my backtest setting, the highest win rate I found was a 93.33%. This is based on the time frame. It's based on the indicator sensitivity. It's also based on my risk to reward ratio. It's also based on my stop loss size filter, and it's based on the EMA. It's also based on the calculated bars. Okay, all that plays a role in finding the best setting. So it's telling me my current settings are 59.38% using this 2 for the multiplier and 14 for the period. So it's telling me I have to change the algorithm multiplier to a 4 and then algorithm period to a 13. Like so, because the current setting has to match the backtest setting if you want the best results. So now they both match. Now, if you're trading this manually, what you want to do is a buy signal is printed, okay? It's above this EMA line. This EMA line is also green and sloping upwards. This is the trend dashboard. So the trend is showing me bullish on all time frames. Strength is also bullish. Ranging is also bullish. So this is basically an A+ setup. So you would enter your trade right there and place your take profit at this level and stop loss at this level if you're trading manually. Now, if the EMA line is flat, it's ranging, you want to avoid the trade. Or if the trend dashboard is showing some bearish on the overall market, but this is bullish, you also want to avoid the trade. So those are the rules if you're using Swift Algo X for manual trading. But since I'm actually using automation trading, it's only taking these buy signals and sell signals only, okay? All right. So, but yeah, that's basically my typical time frame I'm trading on. But this week I've been using the 2-minute time frame, which actually works pretty well. And I've been using the same indicator sensitivity as 5 minutes. You can also, as you can see, it also gave me a 100% win rate, and you can also choose 15 minutes as well. And the 15-minute also gave me a 100% win rate too. And they're both actually almost similar as well, but I've been keeping this on 5 minutes. And the risk to reward ratio, I kept this as 1:1. I kept this the same. EMA, I actually did change this to a 200 EMA instead. And then calculate bars, I kept this as 5,000. And then it's telling me I have to change my multiplier to a 10. And then, of course, my period to a 2. Like so. Because the current setting has to match the back to setting. Okay? So you get all these signals. All right. Okay. And you can also play with this with the hacking ashy candlesticks as well. But let's actually load my other indicator to the chart as well. So if you go to your invite only scripts, you can get access to this ConFlux advanced version. So we're gonna add that to the chart as well. So it should look something like this. Oh, actually, I actually released a new update coming out tonight or tomorrow. It's actually going to be, where is it? This one right there. So this is actually going to be the new update that we'll be releasing. So first things first. So with the ConFlux advanced version, so what you want to do is you want to go to your settings tab, right? Confluent settings is single. We keep this as single. Long signal settings for long signal 1. You want to be choosing Swift Algo X by signal only, and make sure this is checked by default. Short signal, you want to also check sell signal only, and make sure this is also checked by default as well. And then base quantity, this is where you adjust your contract sizing. Note, you do not need to enable this if you're not using Martingale. Base quantity is automatic, okay? So you can adjust 5 contracts or 4. I use this 4 by default. So base quantity is 4 contracts. Let's skip all this. Use trading windows. I usually keep this unchecked. When you keep it as unchecked, it trades basically all sessions. Then going down, exit method, where we're gonna choose indicator exit. And then we're gonna go to this indicator exit settings, and we're going to choose where it says Swift Algo X take profit only. And then this long SL indicator, we're gonna choose Swift Algo X stop loss. And same thing with this, we're gonna choose take profit. And this, we're gonna choose basically stop loss as well. Okay, that's all we're gonna do. Go to properties. I like to make this 4 contracts as well, but it doesn't really matter what you change in this because it goes off on base quantity for the contract sizing. And then on bar close, this does have to be checked. Using bar magnifier, this is only available on the premium plan, but it does make the strategy report more accurate. This is only if you're using hacking ashy candlesticks, but I like to keep all 3 of them checked. And this, I like to keep that unchecked as well. Visibility, you don't do nothing in that. And then that's basically my setup. And going back to Swift Algo X, I do like to uncheck these buy and sell signals because they're too redundant on the chart, because I already have these long signals and exit signals anyways. Then I like to remove this, and I like to make this 3rd level thickness. But this is really based on personal preference. Make that. Then I like to remove this. Then I like to make this 50% shaded. And this one also 50% shaded as well. And this one is also 50% shaded too. And this one's also 50% shaded. Then I like to also uncheck this. And I do nothing in visibility and inputs. That's all I do. So this is basically what your chart looks like. So if you scroll down, you'll see long signals, take profit. Long signals, take profit. So you basically turn Swift Algo X from a TradingView indicator into a full functioning TradingView strategy, okay? Because when you go to Swift Algo X, it doesn't have the strategy symbol. That means it's an indicator. When you see the strategy symbol, that means it's not an indicator, it is a strategy, okay? That's a difference. Now the benefits to obviously using ConFlux is that, you only need to create one alert. Because if you're automating Swift Algo X as an indicator, you have to make 4 different alerts: one buy, one sell, one take profit, and one stop loss. But with ConFlux, you only have to make one alert, especially if you're changing the settings, all the time. It's just too much of a hassle. So that's why I like using ConFlux, because only one alert is needed. And you're also able to view the strategy report, which means you cannot really do this with an indicator. You can only do this with a strategy. So you can see the P&L is almost 4,000, drawdown is under 500. It took all 8 out of 8 trades and 100%. It won all of them. And if you go to list of trades, you'll see basically the list of trades there. And it just makes automation basically a lot more easier as well. So some of the new features with this new update is I did added these emojis to the ConFlux now, just to make it look more nice. So the emojis is part of the new update, and I also added these exclamation description marks as well. So that's also added to that new update as well. And one of the new features I did actually added to this update is called the winner lockout settings. So what this does is, for example, if you actually enable this, and this is, you can change this to 1, 2, or 3, okay? So it's gonna stop you out after this number of consecutive wins in a row, okay? So looking at the chart, for example, let's actually go to a 1 minute time frame so we can see more signals. And we will choose a 1 minute indicator sensitivity as well. So you can see how this works. And this does actually reset every day at Asia Urban, which is 1800 EST. So you can see this was actually in the New York session still. So this is the new start of the Asian session, and it won that trade, which was at 5:01 p.m. and then it locked you out. So this is actually the Swift Algo X, sitting still. But you see, it only took one trade, and boom, you're done for the day already. Okay. And let's say if you wanted to 2 consecutive wins in a row. So obviously, this was a winner, but this was, a loser. Actually, let's actually change the settings. It's not optimized. 5 and 13. There we go. So you see, it took a 1 trade right there, 1 trade, and then after that, you're done for the day already, right? And let's say if you want to do 3 is the max you can actually do for now. So if you do 3 consecutive wins in a row, you'll see. So it took 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, and boom, you're already done. But these would have been, obviously 2 more winners, but like I said, you would have been done already after 3 wins. So that's a feature that's requested by one of the members. Going back to 1, you can see the previous results. So see, this was a loser. Then after that, it won again and then stopped you out since you already won the first trade. So you probably would have been broke even. But if you set that to 2, and then you would have been in profit already. But that's just an example of that feature. It's pretty self-explanatory. And you can also check this, so it's flatten all positions when lockout is activated as well. But I usually keep that unchecked. but there's one option for better risk management. But I personally will, but I would actually personally leave this unchecked, but that's completely up to you. And then you also have a new update called the enable contract cut down after winners. So when you actually check this, it's going to reduce the contracts by after each winner, and you can also adjust this to whatever you want. Let's say we're going to keep it simple and just do one contract as well. And this does actually reset every day at Asia Open, which is at 1800 EST. So if you look closely, so this was Asia. So obviously this was a loser, but then we had a winner at 4 contracts. So what happened? It's gonna reduce it by 1 more contract, make it 3. This was also indeed a winner too, and then it cut you down by another contract. So it took 2 contracts, and then obviously this was a so winner, and then cut you down to 1 contract. So it works pretty well. It does reset. Both of them does reset in Asia Urban at 1800 EST. So this is better for for risk management as well. So you can also test it out and see how you like it. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this on check. And then also a new update I also added is this exit method TP and SL. I did actually improve it as well. So let's say you're taking let's change this to 10 contracts, okay? And let's say for TP1, so we're gonna enable TP and SL, okay? Take profit format, you can change this from points, ticks, or money. We'll use ticks for now. Contract format, percentage, we'll keep as contracts. Then we're gonna keep this enable TP1. And so we're gonna do 50 ticks for take profit 1 value. Quantity TP is the number of contracts you want it to exit at. So once it reaches 50 ticks, I want it to take 5 contracts off from the 10 I have, okay? You can also do 10 if you want. It's completely up to you. And then we're gonna enable TP2, and we're gonna let's keep this as 100 ticks. And I want you to take it off another 5 contracts to make it 10 total, okay? So let's look at one quick example. So it took 10 contracts on this one, okay? It hit TP1 at 50, I think it was 50 ticks. So it took 5 contracts off, then it reached another 100 ticks. So it took another 5 contracts off, and that ended the trade, okay? So that's how that works. And you also have the option to check this. It will move stop loss to entry after TP1 hits. And then you can also check this. It will move stop loss to TP1 after TP2 hits. And you can also change the stop loss format to ticks, points, or money. Stop loss value, this is the initial stop loss. So we'll keep this as 150 just to give an example. So let's look at this. So obviously there's never going to take profit zone. So I actually lost 150 on that trade, 150 ticks. So let's try to look for, so I think this may be how a break even works on this one. So I see TP1 was actually hit, okay? So it took off 5 contracts. Then, then after TP1 was hit, then the stop loss was moved to entry point. And I saw it reverse and it stopped you out, so you basically broke even. So that's, one option for, for better risk management. There's another one, it took a long entry, it went to TP1. So what happened, stop loss from 150 ticks was moved to, break even. Or move to the entry point, but it actually ended up reversing, stopping you out. So therefore you basically broke even. So took 10 contracts, it took 5 off, TP1 was hit, and then it actually got TP2 hit. So that's actually really good in my opinion. So you can also experiment with that as well. So that's how that works. And you can also enable TP3 as well. It only goes to TP1, 2, and 3. So hopefully that actually makes sense as well. You just want to play with it. Like I said, this is just in terms of ticks, points, or money, depending on what format you choose. And then quantity refers to the number of contracts you want it to exit at. Or if you wanted to exit all on TP1, you can just do, let's say, 150 ticks and just take off 10 contracts. And then boom. Simple as that, right? So that's how that works. Okay. So, but the exit method does have to be on TP and SL. And then there's also a trailing stop loss feature. This is not a new feature, but the new features or update, like I said, is these emojis, these exclamation marks. The winner lockout setting was added. The contract cut down settings was added. And then, of course, I actually revamped this. I actually improved it better. So yeah. So let's actually talk about this trailing stop loss feature real quick. So you do got the trailing stop loss settings. So obviously, you know, you can do whatever you want with there with that. Let's say, so initial stop loss, let's say, is 150. Actually, no, let's do 50 for the initial stop loss. I think this may actually be in points. So if it actually enters a trade, but it actually reverses, and then this would be your initial stop loss, it would actually stop you out. So, and then if it goes into take profit, let's say by 40 ticks, then that means it's gonna start trailing after you reach 40 ticks of profit. And then obviously the trailing distance is 20 ticks. So as price goes up into profit and let's say it reverses, and hits, you know, it goes back down by 20 ticks, it would stop you out. And it would actually exit the trade. And I believe this may be in ticks. Let's see what it looks like here. Let's do 200. But honestly, I wouldn't really recommend doing trailing stop loss with Swift Algo X, mainly because it does actually pull back a lot in the drawdown zone before it actually hits take profit. So I actually don't recommend using the trailing stop loss with Swift Algo X. And also, ConFlux doesn't work with Swift Algo X only. It can work with any indicator, but majority of my members does actually use this basically with Swift Algo X. But trailing stop loss is not a common feature that people do use. And I actually personally don't like trailing stop loss because it's mainly because I always get stopped out many times. So yeah, so you can actually play with it and see how it does. Let's look at this example right there. I can't remember if this is actually in ticks or points. I think it may be in ticks. So start trailing after 40 ticks, trailing distance, I don't know, let's just do 40. And see how does that change. So maybe start trailing up to 60. So it's not really making a huge difference, but anyways, those are your options. So you can either do trailing stop loss, which I don't use. You can use TP and SL, which is actually perfect. I think this is actually a huge game changer right there. Or you can just use the common indicator exit method, which means it's just gonna go off the Swift Algo X exit signals, okay? And I did actually remove the break-even feature on this one, mainly because of this. There's really no point in having the break-even feature when you actually have this. Now, since you have the option to move stop loss to entry after TP1 hits, I think that actually is a lot better. Because break even feature actually did went into it would actually stop you out many times, and that trade ended up becoming a winner. So I didn't really thought it was practical, because it does prevent you from having some losses from hitting a full stop loss, but it also prevented you from hitting a lot of winners as well. So I did actually remove that. And then you also have these daily take profit limit and daily stop loss limit, which you can also set as well, like $500 for TP, 300. I would recommend doing this in the broker or prop firm settings as well, because this does not take slippage or trading view delay, so you could be losing. So even if it stops you at 500 on TradingView, it does not mean you're gonna have $500 in your account. It's probably gonna be 200 or 300. It's gonna be less because TradingView does not consider delays or alerts into the equation. And same thing, you can also enable max trades per day, but I also prefer using this in the broker or prop firm settings instead of the TradingView settings. And then you can also enable trading windows if you want to trade evening windows only, overnight, or only in New York session. And you do have the option to flat at the end of the New York session, especially if you're trading prop firms, futures, because you do have the exit before the end of the New York session, because it's one of their rules and regulations. So you do have that option right there as well. But I personally just keep that unchecked. And then this is the Martingale feature. So pretty simple. So if you enable the Martingale and let's say your base contracts is 2 contracts and multiply after loss, we'll just keep that as basic 2. And then max Martingale steps, let's make this 3. Reset to base after event, we'll keep that checked. And make sure this is always checked by default. Week reset mode, we'll keep this as futures. It just means it's gonna reset every Sunday at 1800. And let's see the trade. So let's actually go back more. So when you're using 5,000 calculated bars, it only really goes back a few days, probably 1 week at the most. So when you actually do change this to 0, it does use all the available bars available on your plan. Since I have the premium plan, it does utilize all 20,000 historical bars there. So let's look at an example. Oopsie, hold on. Let's just look at the strategy report. Okay, this one. Okay, so it basically took a trade with 2 contracts, right? So it took a loss, right? So what happens? The next contract is gonna double in size too. Since the base contract size I said was 2, so it took 2 contracts. And I said multiply after loss 2. So since there was a loss, next contract was basically 2 times 2. So it was 4 contracts, right? But unfortunately it took another loss. So what happens? 2 times 4 is 8. So it took 8 contracts on the next one. But fortunately it was also another loss. So what happens? It's gonna multiply again by 2. So 8 times 2, it took 16 contracts. And this 16 basically made up for all these losses plus more. And the Martingale steps I said was max 3. So it only multiplies it 3 times. So base contract was 2, so it took 1, 2, 3. So that's basically the terminology, and that's basically how that works. So it basically made up for all these losses, and plus you got a lot more back in return. So I would only recommend this really passing evals faster. I don't recommend using that really on funded accounts, only on evals. Okay. And it basically resets after every run. So going back. So since it actually won that trade, it actually went back to 2 contracts. So that is that option right there. And you can also reset on new day if you want. So you can actually have it keep multiplying, and you may have to keep this unchecked. So it's just gonna keep multiplying with every loss. It's gonna stay permanent until you reach the max. So if I lost 3 times and it's taking 16 contracts now, it's gonna take 16 contracts until the next trading day, whether if it's a win or a loss. Or you can also have this set on reset on new week. So it's gonna take basically, it's gonna keep multiplying up until my max 3 steps, which is 16 contracts. It's gonna take 16 contracts continuously until Sunday. So I probably want reset to base after ran, or reset to base after ran. So that's basically how that Martingale feature works. So I usually keep that unchecked though. So you can also add other indicators to this. So if you do that, you will need to select double and then select any other indicator you want. Let's just do overall trend. This does have to be checked. Short signal 2, and let's say overall trend again, and then make sure that is also checked too. So you can combine 2 or 3 indicators at the same time to filter out more noise. But note, those 2 does have to be aligned. Let's say indicator 1 gave a buy and indicator 2 also gave buy at the same time. So therefore a buy signal is going to generate, okay? So it can cause you to have less signals. They both have to be aligned at the exact same time. But you can only combine up to 3 indicators. And same thing triple, make sure you select whatever you want and make sure that's checked. But I keep that as single though. I'm only using Swift Algo X and nothing else with this. Right, that's basically all the features basically on the ConFlux advanced version so far. Just want to give you guys a couple of tips real quick. So I do change the settings at least minimum once per day. I usually do that at least before Asia session starts. Only if there's a change. I might check it again after, obviously, just to see if there's a change. Or if there's no change, and if it takes a first trade, let's say 6, 7 p.m. And let's say if it's a loss on this may update, then I'll update it. Or if it's a winner, I may also update this as well, only if it actually updates. And I may do this as many times as needed, just up until I go to sleep. But if the first trade is a winner, I typically do stop after the first winner, just to end the day in green, basically. But if the first trade is a loser, then I would keep it on. I'll just keep it on basically. And just letting you guys know basically how I personally do automation. If I know if I'm actually in a trade, guys, I don't actually look at the charts, because the more you look at the chart, the more anxious you do actually become. So that's actually one of my tips is don't look at the chart. Just go watch a movie or go watch TV or something like that. Because the more you see you're on drawdown, then the more anxious or you're just basically gonna be panicking and getting very emotional, and then you may actually close out of the trade, and then it may actually ended up hitting TP, right? Because if you're in drawdown, guys, you're not losing the trade. You did not lose the trade until it hits stop loss, okay? So see, it actually entered trade by look, it went into drawdown. You did not lose the trade until it actually hits this line, and it actually reversed and ended up hitting take profit. So, because honestly, the market only goes 2 ways. It only goes up or down, right? Meaning you have a 50% chance of winning the trade. You just let the market do its thing, okay? If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. You're not going to win every single trade. That's just the nature of it. And you may even have some losing days and even losing weeks. As long as you have proper risk management, you're going to win the market, okay? As long as your winners is more than your losers. So as long as you're having proper risk management, if you saw that you have 2 losses basically in a row, then stop and just take the loss for the day. Just take the red and then just trade again tomorrow, okay? Don't be letting it trade for you and have 3 or 4 or 5 losses in a row. After 2 consecutive losses, then take a break and then just resume again tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, guys, it's all about having proper risk management for both manual and automation trading. And also another tip I also want to give, a lot of my members has been using this Heikin Ashi candlesticks, which has been really amazing. Using the 2-minute time frame, you can also choose 5 minutes, and you can choose this at 7 and this basically at 6, like so. It also gave 100% win rate right there. It's almost about the same, but a lot of my members has been crushing it with the Hacking Ashi candlesticks as well. So you can also try doing that as well. You can always experiment with it. And also, when you see 100% win rate, it just means that the last trades were just all winners using these settings. That's all it means. It does not mean the next trade is going to win. You can still lose, and obviously, if the next trade does lose, your win rate does actually drop down. I usually don't choose anything below 80%. I want at least a minimum of 80%, to 100%. Usually, I've been aiming for 90 to 100, but the lowest I would do is probably 80%. If I cannot find anything better. So yeah. But I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Please drop a like, leave a comment, and also please subscribe. I do push weekly uploads every week. And also, before I let you guys go, I want to show you guys basically my sniper bot I've been working on so far. So far this week, I did end it in green. I took these 3 winners yesterday. If you look on the strategy report, it's actually pretty good so far. 70,000 PNL. This will be in beta testing mode in June 1st, but this is only available for the Prime Plan exclusives, and the links will all be in my description as well. So yeah. So far I will keep you guys up to date with how the Legacy Sniper bot has been going. Well, without that, I'll let you guys go and see you guys next week.